What's up, everybody? It's your favorite 1/1 collector's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the Hot Toys 1/1 scale Baby Groot. This is on loan to me from Esteban. He's been awesome to me. He sent me this along with some other stuff that I'm a little salty about because I thought I was making my way to the bottom of the bag here in terms of work I gotta get done, but it turns out, nope! I got a ton more to do. So, and I know he has the best intentions. I was just really excited in my head. I was like, man, I'm gonna review this Groot and then I am done. And that's just not the case. So, let's get this going. I am excited about this. It is Hot Toys. It's not part of their 1/6 scale, obviously, but what better character to have as a 1/1 scale figure in terms of size? Now, I know real quick before we get started that you guys are probably wondering, how big is Baby Groot? And to the top of his crest there, he's just about 9 3/4 inches. So let's go ahead and get started looking at accessories.
He comes with 2 alternate faces. He comes with, oh my goodness, all those Keebler elves live in the same tree and make these delicious cookies for real face. And he comes with the, yep, I'll push the button if I have to face. And both are cool and they're done well. The only difference stylization wise is that this one has the mouth open and the teeth are painted extremely well, and there's even some paint done inside the mouth that you can never really see due to shadow, so that's a nice touch. But the thing that I kind of regret about this is, like, I like the angry Groot face, you know, the angry Baby Groot, like when he's pissed off, you know, like I think it's pretty funny. And I wish they would have given you one of those, maybe instead of this one. You know, the super happy face is nice to have. The straight kind of stoic face, which he kind of comes standard with, is nice to have. And then an angry face would have been nice to have. But that's definitely my personal preference. But I just feel like this and the standard one that he comes with, just a little too similar. He comes with a flight suit. I won't be putting it on. It's just too much wear and tear for a very expensive piece that ultimately doesn't belong to me. But we'll talk about it nonetheless. So, you know, it's pretty well done. Like, there's got some dirt and grime kind of shading done on it with like a black wash, it seems like, in certain parts, and it's done very subtly. So it's a really good blend. And then there's also, of course, like the zipper, all of this stuff is all done and painted in dry brush. Same here. This has got the little different imprint design-wise, like on it. And then you have this, you know, lace system that's up and down the suit. Like, I think if you own this figure, I think you kind of have to put this on. Like, I don't know. I feel like display-wise, this is what kind of makes it worth the money, is the combination of both. Let's see what else. Little doodads and stuff. The faux leather. You know, this harness system in the back. The little symbol there. That's painted and washed. So, yeah, I mean, this is done really well, and I feel like in order to kind of really get your money's worth out of it, you really should probably apply this to the figure. So he comes with the 2, you know, tree finger hands. They're a softer plastic. They're not wired, or, you know, they are, just not at the tips. So they're wired from down here to the middle, so that's cool. You'll be able to pose them well, and then they just plug in where the hands currently are. They're kind of done in the same fashion that the actual, you know, tree texture is done for the figure themselves. We'll talk about that when we get there, but you get 2 of those. And then you get a variety of these little bits here, like the little tree bits that plug in. It just kind of depends on, you know, what you want stylistically, which is a nice choice to kind of provide to you. And in kind of typical Hot Toys fashion, he comes with 2 replacement peg joints if you should break one of yours. And lastly, you get the display base with the kind of cosmic design on there, which looks great. And then the Groot with the little stylizations and accents around the nameplate, which also looks good. A posable stand, and then a kind of C-clip base, or, you know, clip to hold him in place. So the stand is actually really well done. It's not your typical kind of 2-prong 1/12 scale kind of thing. It's a nicer approach, I think. Sculpt-wise, I think they nailed it. You know, and this is you know, one of my complaints with Hot Toys is sometimes they're soft goods stuff, but, you know, this doesn't have that issue, obviously. And I think they nail it. I do think that the actual film representation of the character has a little bit more variation in color throughout the tree bark. This is pretty simple in that regard. You know, obviously in the head it's the brown to green, but for the rest of the figure,
it's pretty much just the brown and then the variation in shades of brown. But I feel like in looking at the images, like there's oranges and like hues of reds almost in some of the tree bark, which I don't feel like is present here. Which I don't feel like is present here. And that would be something that I complained about. But I think that sculpt wise, like even looking at the general shape of the chest bark, like I think they got it pretty much as close as one could hope. All right, so let's go over all the detailings and such. So the whole thing is pretty much 100% sculpted. Like, so like this isn't part of the sculpt, like in the joints, but it even has like little rivets and stuff, which is just part of the joint system, but it almost gives the illusion of just more bark lines. So there's a lot of things like that that really work in this guy's favor. On top of that, we had the kind of general variations, right? So there's the tree bark, which looks like it is painted brown, washed with a darker brown, and then dry brush with possibly 2 shades of a lighter brown. At least that's the way it looks to me. And it's pretty consistent throughout in terms of how they approach it. That is to say, it looks like the whole figure kind of got the whole shebang. You know, they dry brushed pretty much everything evenly, washed everything evenly, which may not actually be the best choice. You know, that might lead to some of the lack of variation and sort of depth in terms of, you know, they all look like identical pieces of tree wood, where I feel like the movie image that we just looked at looked like more of a variety. That being said, on top of that, we have some of this like mossy stuff that's, you know, sculpted in, and then some of the vine work and such, and all that is, so this is dry brush with a brown, like a olive green, and then a lighter shade of green, and then the vines and stuff look like they were attempted to be painted with like the olive green or the brown, and I feel like they missed this one here, but maybe that's on purpose. And then dry brush with the lighter shade of green over top, because it definitely has a dry brush finish to it while looking at the green. Overall, very well done though, especially the green. So for the head, and you can see all the little ports and stuff throughout where you can plug in the little, you know, the little vines, like the little add-on vine pieces that they gave you. They're completely, you know, all over this thing. So for the head, eyes are like almost like a marble, you know, so they have that nice natural reflective shine, which is nice. The head itself is blended, so this the brown, and it kind of got the same detailings, and then I think the whole top was airbrushed with this lighter green. And then more green detailings was kind of done up in here with, looks like dry brushing over top of the brown, like a heavy-handed dry brush, which all looks good. And that is basically, you know, like there's not much to this thing, detailings-wise. Sculpt-wise, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, every little piece of bark is sculpted and almost done in individual planks and such. And I mean, it looks fantastic. But in terms of the paint, it's really well painted, but it's kind of a one-size-fits-all approach. Like they just applied the same thing that they applied to the hand, they applied to the form. It's like throughout, which is good. It's fine. It makes it look consistent, but I don't think it makes it look quite as movie accurate as one may hope. There is some subtle variations. Don't get me wrong. Like there is a slight variation in this upper body here, but for the most part, it looks fairly consistent, which isn't a bad thing. It's just something worth noting. Now let's talk about articulation. We can see the head pretty easily because you can remove the face to swap out. So double ball peg, the upper ball peg goes into a cylinder, which is what allows it to swivel. And it works fine, but you would think with the double ball peg and with the swivel that you would get a little bit more range out of her, and you really don't. You get down to there, which is not bad, actually. Actually, no, that's much better. Maybe you just need to loosen up a bit, and up to there. So I don't have any complaints about that. It works fine. When I first messed with it, I didn't get much out of it. And then the swivel. You have another ball peg from the neck into the chest. It's a little tight and a little scary for me, so I'm not going to mess with it too tough. This feels like a double ball peg to me, but it might be a single that just comes from here and a long stem down into the port in the waist. Either way, decent range of motion, and you get your swivel there. This plastic here is slightly malleable, so it kind of moves easily around it. Be careful though, there is a lot of paint, and with continuous rub, you know what can happen. For the shoulder, it's a disc hinge into a ball peg into the torso, so you can drop the arm down a little bit
to get the arm all the way up, which is nice, or you can have the arm all the way up and get to about there. Either way, totally up to you. You don't get much of a butterfly, just the smallest bit, which I think is ultimately fine. And then you get a little bit of swivel by manipulating the ball peg, which is okay as well. Single disc hinge elbow gets you about 90 degrees, and then you get a swivel there for a bicep, so that's fine. Then you get the standard Hot Toys wrist articulation, which is to say a ball hinge that plugs into the forearm and into the hand. So it swivels both at the forearm, it should anyway, and the hand, and the so you can get the up down. And then let's see if we can't get her to turn. There we go. Oh, that was the in out, right? And then the up down. So that's the up down. Oh, come on, girl. And then in out. Tight little joint, but she'll get you what you need. Same for the other side. For the hips, T-joint and ball joints, they get you out to there. They drop down? No. Forward and back to there, so that's pretty cute. And if you put that suit on them, you know, you're gonna lose some. Actually, they do drop down. This one does anyway. I don't feel like this one does. Maybe a little bit. Some tight joints in there. Thigh swivels built around the ball peg, which is just enough in my opinion. Single knee hinge that gets you 90 degrees. And then the feet actually work, actually work really well on a double ball peg. So you get the ankle tilt up and down, and a pretty decent rocker, at least enough to get into an A stance. So all in all, the articulation works really well. I can't account for how it works with the suit on, but I would imagine since it works so well without the suit that it would at least work fine kind of with the suit. But yeah, it's a really well done figure. My main beef here is just some of the joint tolerances, but for the most part, I mean, it's beautiful.
Final thoughts wise, honestly, there's not much to say. I think he's great. My only criticisms would have been, I wish I could have seen a little bit more variety in the browns that they used. Maybe brighten them up a bit here and there with some oranges or some ambers, maybe some deep reds. And some of the joint tolerances are a little tight for my liking, which ultimately means a little scary for my liking a lot of the times as well. But for the most part, I mean, it's painted head to toe. It's sculpted head to toe, has a strong presence, looks just like him. A lot of accessories which all make sense and add to the overall display. The price point is what it is, but you kind of know what you sign up for when you get into this stuff. And the materials are great. So yeah, if you're a Groot fan or a Baby Groot fan, or your wife is a Baby Groot fan, I know that's a common thing out there as well, I can definitely recommend it. The 1/1 collector game is very tempting for me when I get into like Darth Vader and stuff. That is until I look up the price. All right, I think I'm gonna get into this 1/1 scale stuff. Maybe I'm not. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.